Christmas Eve, 1971. A 17-year-old girl sat beside her mother on a crowded passenger plane above the Peruvian Amazon. Families were traveling home for Christmas. The flight was nearly over. Then lightning struck. Within seconds, the aircraft exploded apart in midair. Passengers were ripped from their seats, metal twisted, the sky filled with debris, and one teenage girl found herself falling alone through the clouds. Not in a parachute, not in a rescue harness, still strapped to her row of seats. She fell more than 10,000 feet toward one of the deadliest jungles on Earth. What happened next remains one of the most astonishing survival stories ever recorded, because the fall wasn't the worst part. The Amazon was waiting. Juliane Koepska was not an ordinary teenager. Born in Peru to German zoologists, she spent much of her childhood at a remote biological research station deep in the Amazon rainforest. Her parents, Maria Koepka and Hans Wilhelm Koepka, studied wildlife in places few outsiders ever visited. While most children learned from textbooks, Juliane learned how to identify dangerous insects, avoid getting lost in the jungle, and survive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. She had no idea those lessons would one day save her life. On December 23, 1971, she graduated from high school in Lima. The next day, she and her mother boarded Lanza Flight 508 to return to the family research station for Christmas. Her father had warned them about the airline's poor safety reputation, but it was one of the only available flights. It would become one of the deadliest aviation disasters in South American history. The weather was bad. Thunderstorms towered over the jungle. As the aircraft flew through violent clouds, passengers became nervous. Outside the windows, flashes of lightning illuminated the darkness. Then came the strike. A bolt of lightning hit the aircraft directly. Passengers later described hearing an explosion. The plane began to break apart in midair. Juliane remembered hearing her mother's final words. "This is the end, it's all over." Then the cabin vanished around her. One moment she was sitting in her seat. The next she was outside the airplane, falling. Imagine opening your eyes and seeing nothing beneath you except jungle, thousands of feet below. Juliane was still strapped into a row of seats as she spun through the air. The roar of wind was deafening. The sky rotated around her. Then, everything went black. Scientists still debate exactly how she survived. Some believe the row of seats acted like a crude parachute, slowing her descent. Others think powerful updrafts inside the storm reduced her speed. The dense rainforest canopy may have also absorbed part of the impact. Whatever the reason, she survived a fall that should have been impossible to survive. When Juliane regained consciousness, she was lying on the jungle floor, alone. At first, she couldn't even comprehend what had happened. Her glasses were gone. One sandal was missing. Her body was covered in bruises and cuts. A deep wound split her arm open. Her collarbone was broken. A knee ligament was torn. She had a concussion. For hours, she drifted in and out of awareness. Around her stretched endless rainforest. No roads, no villages, no rescue teams. No sign of her mother, no sign of anyone. Just the sounds of insects and distant animal calls. And somewhere in that jungle were the remains of the aircraft. When she could finally stand, Juliane began searching. She called for her mother, again and again. No answer, only silence. As she walked through the wreckage zone, she found pieces of the plane scattered across miles of rainforest. Luggage hung from trees. Metal fragments protruded from the ground. Bodies lay among the vegetation. The realization slowly sank in. Everyone she had known on that flight was probably dead. She was 17 years old and completely alone. Most survival stories end when the crash survivor reaches the ground. Julian's had only begun. The Amazon rainforest is one of the most dangerous wilderness environments on Earth. Venomous snakes, poisonous insects, disease-carrying mosquitoes, piranha-filled rivers, relentless humidity, and a dense canopy that makes navigation nearly impossible. Julian had almost no food, no clean water, no medical supplies, no weapon, no map, no compass. But she remembered something her father had taught her. If you're lost in the rainforest, find water. A stream eventually becomes a river, and rivers eventually lead to people. It was the only plan she had. She discovered a small creek and began following it downstream. Every step hurt, her injuries worsened. The jungle floor was a maze of roots, mud, and hidden dangers. At night, she slept on the ground, surrounded by sounds she couldn't identify. Sometimes she heard movement nearby. Sometimes she imagined it. She had no way of knowing. The jungle never became quiet, not for a single minute. Days passed. She survived mostly on candy she had found in the wreckage. The stream gradually widened. Eventually, she began wading directly in the water because moving through the river was easier than fighting through the vegetation. It also reduced the chance of becoming completely lost. But new dangers waited there. The cut on her arm grew worse every day. The tropical heat attracted insects. Flies laid eggs in the wound. Soon she noticed movement beneath her skin. Maggots, botfly larvae. They were feeding inside her flesh. The infection could have killed her, yet she kept moving. One day, then another, then another. The river became her guide and her lifeline. Still no rescue. Still no sign of civilization. After 9 exhausting days, Julian saw something impossible. A small boat, then a hut. Human beings had been there, but nobody was present. She waited. Hours passed. Still no one came. Inside, she found fuel. Remembering advice she had heard before, she poured gasoline into her infected wound. The pain was unbearable, but it forced many of the larvae out. Then she waited again, weak, exhausted, not knowing whether anyone would ever return. Eventually, local lumber workers arrived. At first, they thought they were seeing a ghost. Standing before them was a teenage girl in a torn dress, covered in insect bites, wounded, dehydrated, and barely able to stand. She had emerged from a jungle that routinely kills experienced explorers. The workers cared for her and transported her by canoe for hours through the river system. Eventually, she was airlifted to a hospital. 11 days after falling from the sky, she was finally safe. The story becomes even more heartbreaking after the rescue. Investigators later discovered that Julian was not the only person who initially survived the crash. As many as 14 others survived the impact, including her mother. But they were severely injured. No rescue reached them in time. One by one, they died in the rainforest. When Julian learned this, the knowledge haunted her. Why had she survived when so many others had not? It was a question she would carry for the rest of her life. Years later, Julian returned to the jungle with filmmaker Werner Herzog for the documentary Wings of Hope. The connection was eerie. Herzog had originally planned to fly on the same doomed flight, but changed his plans at the last minute. Together, they walked among pieces of wreckage still hidden beneath the rainforest. Metal fragments remained embedded in the jungle decades later. The forest had swallowed almost everything. Almost. Unlike many people defined by tragedy, Julianne refused to let the crash become her entire identity. She followed in her parents' footsteps and became a scientist specializing in mammals and bats. She eventually helped manage the same Amazon research station where she had spent her childhood. Yet she never escaped the question that follows every soul survivor: why me? Why did a teenager survive a lightning-struck aircraft, a 10,000-foot fall, and 11 days alone in the Amazon when dozens of others did not? No scientist can fully answer that. Even Julianne cannot. Most people fear flying. Few ever imagine surviving a plane crash. Almost nobody imagines surviving the fall, waking up alone in the Amazon, and then walking out 11 days later. Yet, that is exactly what happened. A teenager fell from the sky. The jungle tried to finish what the crash had started, but the Amazon had underestimated one thing. The girl who landed there had been preparing for that moment her entire life.